All right, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to I.M.POSSIBLE. Now, before we get going, I'm going to ask that if everybody could just stay off of this top step here. This way, nobody blocks this display behind me, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around the whole hosting thing, right? Also, if I could draw your attention to the menu wheel on your lower left, you're going to notice at the very top of that menu wheel is a microphone icon. When that microphone icon is clear, that means we can hear everything that's happening in your environment. And I do mean everything, right? So what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've turned that to red, and this means that you mute it. So if you have something in the background, like somebody comes into your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? Don't worry about it. Feel free to answer them because we're not going to hear that. Likewise, if maybe you have a barking dog in the background, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire. No, because, we did the whole muting thing. So now, you just let that dog bark. You let that dog have a good time, right? So also, if I could ask you guys to not send me any text messages while I'm up here, I'd appreciate that, because when you're up here and you're doing a whole hosting thing and all of a sudden there's a big wall of text in front of you, it's like hitting the wall, except, it's really kind of a wall of text. All right, so what is I.M.POSSIBLE about? I was just asked. Well, I.M.POSSIBLE is an event where we trade stories where we ourselves or somebody we know overcame really difficult odds and got the thing done that they didn't think they could do, what the people around them didn't think they could do. All right. And the way this is going to work is you're going to notice on your lower right, there's going to be a raise hand button that appears as if by magic. True. That's what magic looks like in VR. And if you press that raise hand button, it'll turn blue and that'll get you on our list. And once it's blue, you'll be on the list. You don't need to worry about that. We will be taking stories in the spaces in between stories, because all space hosts, they can't stand pauses. It's the natural enemy of an all space event host. All right. So I'll start out by telling you guys how I got a little history with this word impossible, right? How I really, started to come to know it and have this, kind of a bad taste for it, really. And that was because when I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I had one summer where I had these bullies that were a few years older than me, and they'd kind of chase me down every day into this alleyway and they'd beat me up, and in the beginning, I did like anyone else would, I'd fight back, I'd try to run, and they'd tell me like every day, like, don't run, escape is impossible. Don't fight back, it's impossible. And they kept using that word. And I thought I knew what it meant. I thought it meant that, you couldn't do the thing, right? So I stopped trying. And then one day, a man walks into my father's bar. He owned a tavern at the time. And he walked in with a shopping bag that would change my life forever. Now, he walked in and he had a few drinks, went out to the bar. And when he went to settle his bill out, he asked my dad, he says, do you have any kids at home? And my dad says, yeah, I have two boys. Why do you ask? He says, oh, they're going to like this. He picks up that shopping bag and he puts it on the bar and he slides it across to my dad. My dad goes to look inside the bag thinking this is going to be the biggest tip he ever received. And he looks in expecting to find a sack of money, but instead he found a stack of Batman comics. And he brought them home. I slid the first one under my bedroom door the first May. And in the morning when I got up, I read that thing. I didn't read it like a kid reads a comic book or a storybook. I read this like an instruction manual. It was like a how-to guide, right? So I took my backpack and I modified it. Filled up the side pocket with these glass marbles. I put a drawstring on it, and I just got to notice that I'm being choppy. So, it's less than professional here, but I'm going to re-enter the space. Remember, just excuse me for one moment here. Just going to re-enter. There we go. All right. Hopefully that cleared things up. That load screen air sure is nice. I like it on the top of the hill there. Morgan's my voice all clear? Sound better, everybody? All right, good. Got a thumbs up. Cool. All right, so I modified that old backpack. I filled it with these glass marbles and I put a drawstring on it, right? And that day I went out to do all the kid things, go out to play and all that stuff. And just as usual, those bullies chased me into that alley. But this time, what I did was I reached back and I pulled on that drawstring really hard, and all those marbles clattered on the concrete behind me, and I kept running. And for the very first time, I made it to the garages. I'd never done that before. And I kept going. And I made it past this big wall that's just past the garages, and I scrambled up that wall on top of the garages, and I looked back down the alleyway, to see how I did. And all those bullies, they were still trying to get up. And every time they tried to get up, they'd fall back down. And I started giggling. I started laughing. It was, I wasn't that old at the time. I was very young, but to that time, that was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And then all of a sudden, I stopped laughing because it occurred to me all of a sudden that I had done what they said could not be done. That the word impossible didn't mean what they thought it meant. It only meant that, you hadn't done the thing yet, but, maybe you could. So I thought it was kind of a limiting word. And ever since then, I kind of take it as a dare. As a matter of fact, when that was over, I went up to the library and I went into that building and listen, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I was very young at the time, right? And the statute of limitations is up anyway, so I confess it. What happened was I went into every dictionary that was in that building. I looked up the word impossible and I crossed it out with black magic marker. like one of those heavy ink Sharpie type pens, right? Cross that out. And ever since then, like whenever I hear that word impossible, I kind of see it as a dare, and I just keep on going and keep trying to achieve that thing, right? All right, now what we're going to do now is I'm going to check my list to make sure we have if you see anybody on here. And who we have is we have Bradley. Bradley, why don't you come up here and feel VR famous? Now, just as a reminder to everybody, we do record our events on YouTube. Probably go out in a few weeks. So if you share something here today and it's kind of personal and you don't want it going on the air, just see me after and tell me and we'll edit it out, okay? That's a Raven Eye or YouTube camera. If you want to feel, VR famous, you can just look at it out and be like, hey, YouTube, how's it going? We got some people in here. We got Keon, we got Colvinator, we got who's this over here? We've got Amanda, and we've got Bradley. Now, Bradley, if you come on up here, and you're on the air, so go ahead and tell us what you got. Everybody show some emojis for Bradley, some applause emojis. It takes a lot of courage to do what he's doing. All right, there we go. Very cool. All right, Bradley, what do you got? Not yet? Okay. All right, that's cool. You don't have to. It's fine. All right. Maybe it was a little bit too much pressure with the applause. All right, but if you press that raise hand button again, if you change your mind, Bradley, we'll have you up here. All right, now if anybody else is tried to do something that they didn't think they could do, maybe you asked somebody to go out with you and you thought they were like way out of your league, right? And the next thing you know, like 10 years later, you find out you're married to him and you're like, yeah, that worked out. I could do that thing, something like that. Or maybe, you didn't get that job, and all of a sudden you got that job. Stuff like that, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And it doesn't even have to be your story. Maybe you have like a family member that did something you didn't think they could do. You didn't think they could make that jump, but they did. And you didn't think that they can get that a new car. They did. So that kind of stuff is the kind of thing that we like to focus on here. All right. So in the meantime, since there's nobody else on the list, I'm just going to keep on going. All right. So in the early days of the U.S., there was a gold rush. And there was, a lot of miners looking for gold. And this old miner came into, possession of all things, a gold mine. Right. Imagine that. A miner with a gold mine. It was incredible. So what happened was he went, worked in that mine every single day. And as a treat to himself, at the end of the day, he'd go into town and he'd go into the saloon and he'd have a few drinks and he'd unwind. Well, what happened was there was a man in that saloon that would come up to him every single day and ask him to sell him the mine. And every single day that man said, no, there's no way I'm going to sell this thing. There's gold in there. I can feel it in my bones. I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to stop. This mine is mine. All right. I don't know if he actually said that. I just like saying that part. Mine is mine. It's kind of works with it. Anyway, so he keeps trying and he keeps looking. And every single day that man keeps asking him to sell it. And every single day the miner tells him no. And then, every time he came into that saloon, he was looking a little bit more haggard, a little bit more beat up. He was getting more and more discouraged. And along came one of those days. We've all had those days, right? When nothing goes right. Where, his fuses were wet for his dynamite, his mining cart was tipped over, his pickaxes were broken. There was nothing going right for this guy. And he was like really upset. And he comes into town and it's raining and he drags himself into that saloon and he's all muddy and stuff. And the man walks up to him and before the guy could even ask, the miner tells him, okay, fine, I'll sell it to you. You can have it. And he gave it to him at a good price. Now, a few days later, that miner came back into that saloon to find the man he sold the mine to celebrating. They were playing music. He was buying everybody drinks. He was on top of the world, So the miner asked him, he says, listen, what's the occasion? And the guy says, well, that mine you sold me, we hit gold. We did. We absolutely hit gold. And the miner's like, man, you got to tell me, how close did I get? And the man says, well, we only dug about 3 feet. And the miner, for the rest of that miner's life, every single time he faced something difficult, every single time he faced a different challenge, he would always tell himself, I'm 3 feet from gold. Now, this miner went on to become very successful in his life by, having that kind of philosophy driving him. And you got to keep in mind, life is like that. Whenever you're facing something difficult, whenever you think something's impossible, when you keep on pushing, right at that moment when you're about to give up, that's usually when you're about to achieve the thing you're trying to. All right. And it's a lot like that. Ever since then, I love that story. All right. Let's see. We have somebody else on our list. Let's check that out. Let's see. We got Bradley again. Bradley's going to take another shot. Bradley, come on up here. Give that a shot. All right. Let's see. Your microphone working, Bradley? We all good? All right, cool. Go ahead. What do you got for us? Okay, Bradley, I'm not hearing you. Anybody else hearing Bradley? Okay. That's cool. No worries. No worries, Bradley. Maybe a technical problem here. Listen, we got Keon. Let's try Keon. Keon, you're on the air. Why don't you come up to the stage here? Come on up here, Keon. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Everybody give some applause emojis for Keon. Make him feel welcome. There we go. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. All right,
Thank
cool.
you,
Now he's going to
everybody.
feel PR famous. Look at him. He's up there. He's presenting like a natural. That's beautiful. All right, cool. What do you got for us, Keon?
Well, first off, thank you for uh, telling your story, and
Oh, thank you.
you
Thank you for
know,
listening.
I really do feel inspired by that.
Oh,
And I just
awesome.
want to tell mine. Well, growing up, I was in high school, and I was on the football team, and I always wanted to lift weights and become one of the best. And usually, almost every day after school, we go to the field house and work out. And there, you have competition and stuff during workouts. We always challenge each other to see who can do the most. And it came to the deadlifting part of the workout, and I think it was a friend of mine challenged me. We used to have a board at the top to show everybody's highest weightlifting out of like the receivers, who lift the most on the receivers, the corners, the linebackers, and I was a receiver. And we used to have our little challenges going on. And when it came to the deadlifting part, I used to think to myself, I can do this. And my other receivers try try to get in my head and say, you can't do this, because at the time they already lifted more than me. They lifted more weights than me. So they was on the board, and my challenge was to pass them. But they kept saying, no, you can't do it. It's impossible for you. You can't do it. You're weak. And so I said, okay, all right. So, I kind of let them get to my head a little bit. So after school, I used to, after practice, I go straight home and just, go to sleep, because practice is already tiring as it is. So I didn't really, care too much. And then one day, you know, I kind of, looked back, and I was like, did I really let this man get the best of me? Did I really let him just talk down on me like that? So at that point, I went back, and every day after practice, I tell the coach, I want to go back in the weight room and practice on my deadlift. And he said, okay. And so me and him, he used to spot me when I deadlift. And it was always one day, it's called max day. And that day is you can lift, try to lift as much as you can to, for them to write it on your your thing, whatever it is. And my receivers, my friends, they used to say all this every time. And one day, after all that extra practice, I was able to deadlift like 450 pounds. And a kid my height, I'm 5'10, they don't usually deadlift that much. And that just, when I did it, when I put like that much weight, the whole football team surrounds me, hypes me up, gets me ready to lift the weight. They do it to everybody. But me, I really got that encouragement, and I lifted that weight like it was nothing. Like it was nothing. And everybody started saying, it really made me laugh, because everybody started saying, "You using steroids or something, Keon?" Like, no, man, I work after practice. Hard work pays off. And then I'll go up to my receivers and I'm like, "Oh, you're quiet now. Now, okay." Talking about that's impossible. Okay. And then I actually broke the record for the most deadlifts, the most weight for a receiver, and my record has
Awesome.
been up there ever since. And
Nice.
yeah, and nobody
Very
has
cool.
yet broken it. Nobody has
You
yet
know what?
broken it yet.
Sometimes I got to tell you, the most motivating thing in the world can be when somebody tells you that you can't do something, right? As a
Yeah,
matter of fact, when we were working on this space, all we had was an Apple iPad, and we had, an old laptop that could only run Unity for like 15 minutes. And, people who were like world builders said, we couldn't do it with just that, right? They said we couldn't. They said we can't. But we said we could. And we kept going. And we kept trying. And we eventually got it done, right? And a lot of times, like when we first had this event, it was supposed to be a one-time thing. And when we had it, a lot of people came out and told us these stories. And I realized, during that event, that it's not the word impossible itself that's the problem, right? It's that we just accept it. It's our relationship to that word, right? So I kept having this event. I kept on doing it. And then after I'd done it a while, the audiences started getting smaller, and I was about to stop. Right. And on the last show, which was supposed to be the last show, somebody came in and said that they had been to our show 3 weeks before. And what happened was let's see, I'm getting a message here. Okay. Yeah, no, that's totally cool, John. We can have you up. Just press that raise hand button, right? But what happened was we kept on going with this. We kept on, doing it. And right when we were about to give up, somebody came in saying that, they came here on a day that they were about to give up and they heard our story and it helped keep going. So we keep doing this, hoping that somebody who's in a difficult relationship or maybe facing a difficult assignment at work or at school, we keep doing this, hoping that somebody comes in right when they're about to quit and they hear the thing that makes them keep on going. All right, let's see. John of York, if you press that raise hand button, we'll have you up here. I got a text from John asking if you could share something that's not his. The story doesn't have to be yours. It doesn't even have to be real. It doesn't even have to be in the real world. It can be in like VR. Like you didn't think you could build a world, but you did. Right? You didn't think, that you can get the thing done, but you could. Things like that. So let's see. John of York, come on up here. Let's have you up.
Hey,
How are you, John?
how you doing?
Hey, how's it going,
Yeah,
John?
man.
Welcome,
Trying to
everybody.
speak
Show some
freely as
applause
possible.
for John here. I'll make it feel good. Make it feel VR famous. All right, John, just remember that we are recording these episodes. If it's like too personal and you don't want us to air it, just let us know, okay?
Yeah, man, that sounds fine.
All right, cool. What do you got for us?
This is a story that it goes back a while. My family is from Northern England, a mining culture, and I remember my granddad telling me this. I'll keep it brief, but long story short, my granddad used to work in the mines. The mines was always hard work. And I think it's one of the reasons he had bad lungs with the constant exposure to coal and stuff like that. So he goes down on this mine in late September. The mines have been struggling because the rain's coming down the mines and it's causing issues, as you would imagine, logistically. So he gets stuck in this mine. Part of the mine was collapsing because we were building under the town, and the town was collapsing upon it, and it was causing, they were illegally mining in certain areas, purely due to the profit got to coal. The UK's never cared, it's industrial. And he got stuck in a mine one day when the back end of the mine collapsed. The birds were the first one to die. They had canary birds, like little parakeets, that would bring down to the mines, and he felt himself suffocating, and he was starting to panic. He said it's the worst feeling he's ever felt. He's never felt so close to the end, is the way he put it. I'm trying to be as subtle as possible and moderate, but he got out of there. I'll keep it in PG manner. He hurt his fingernails getting out. So he had a hard time. It was the other four guys there. One of them passed out, was fine afterwards. About four birds, because each man had his own bird as he was going down. And this is very traditional mining. They still had machine tools, but there was some pickaxing to do. It depended on the mining that they're doing and the budget of the area. But in brief, he managed to get out by force and push. And when he was climbing, he was moving rocks, but the issue is, because of where there was mining illegally, it was connected to a well and it started flooding in. So he was panicking. He can't swim himself, so he's thinking, I'm going to drown in a mine. So he got out by climbing, and then he climbed. He was so happy to get into the elevator once he got through, and he said, "This is just a phrase he said, and in a mine, you're never too far away from the light." And he really did. He's got the scars on his hand. He must have been in a terrible condition. He slept for like 2 days afterwards. He wasn't breathing for a while properly. It really messed him up. But it's just being able to see something through. Like he wanted to give up so many times in that mine. I think he was having a mental breakdown, but he never said it that way. He was stuck in that mine for about 4 hours, and that might not be long. But when you're in a panic mode and you feel like in a situation like that where the rain's coming in through the ceilings of the mine, and you're worried about sudden death, basically, you can really find motivation out of nowhere. So he managed to get out. He was making his way, and he never told the story properly and not completely. This is why the details are brief. But I think that what he was saying, he was telling me the story because at the time I wanted to leave college, and it was a very important thing to be able to. I know that doesn't quite relate, but he went, if you see things through, you'll come out better. And he said the same thing when I was saying I was interested in the military. Uh, Sometimes the pay is worth the risk as well, what's maybe not a good thing, but it's something I'll always remember.
Wow.
I'm sorry if that's a bit random of a story, but I just thought I'd
No,
share.
it's fantastic. It's exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. You know, I mean, listen,
Hmm.
it's kind of funny. You must have come in late, but we, in just about every show, I tell this story about a miner. We did it at the beginning, and it's kind of funny. We have
Hmm.
two mining stories, but you know, out of that, I'm telling you, you can really see like what people are capable of. Now listen, we had. Let me see. Here we go. We got time for one more in here. What we did. Well, let me give you a little background of how what part of my journey and how I came into being VR in the first place because it's applicable to the topic here. What happened was I was working from home in Brooklyn, New York at the time, and I very rarely left the house because my work was there, and I'd be there all the time. And once a week, my family would take me out for breakfast, and they gradually noticed I was starting to act kind of funny. You know, like my words were starting to slur. You know, I didn't seem really coordinated. I was having a hard time speaking. I seemed really confused. And then at home, when I was working, I found like I'd spend all day trying to remember how to write a check. So something was going on. Right now, my family, they got me out of there and they went in to help me move my stuff out. And when they were in there, they told me, that the air seemed like it had a presence, right? Not like the place was haunted or anything, but like you could actually see everyone's getting a text here. No problem, John. That's great. You did fantastic. Everybody throw up a round of applause for John. He did an amazing job. That was great. So don't worry about how you did. That was fantastic. All right. But yeah, so they went in to move my stuff out of there. And my mom said there was like a presence there. And we're not talking like it was haunted. We're talking like you can kind of see the air. It was like it wasn't a smell, but it just seemed wrong. So they had the air tested, and it turned out that only 10% of that air sample that they took was actually oxygen. The rest of it was made up of a deadly mold, like black mold, if you've ever heard of it. It was actually two of the deadliest kinds. And I had been living in that environment for years. So they got me out of there. And as soon as I got out of there, my body started to fight back. And this took the form of my heart racing really fast. Like, imagine running as fast as you can and not being able to ever stop. It would go 20 hours a day and it wouldn't stop. Right. And I'd get this like severe dizziness where I'd be, walking around and I'd fall down, I'd hit my head on the sink, and it was just really, really bad. And I'm like picking out places like, all right, well, if I fall down here and they find me, it won't be as upsetting if they find me over there. That's bad. And I spent that whole year on my back trying to get better. And I had to give up all my stuff. I lost my computer, my clothes. All I had was this little radio to keep me company in this little dark apartment, just waiting for things to get better, right? And didn't give up. I probably would have driven a lot of people nuts. And listen, when you know this from the whole COVID thing going around, you start to lose track of the days. After a while, all the days are the same. You don't know what day of the week it is. And my family, they got me an Apple iPad to reconnect with the world. And I was doing that and breathing, trying to keep myself going. And saw an ad for an Oculus Go, and I thought it was the coolest looking thing in the world. I was like, I got to try this. And I read about Altspace, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to go in there. I'm going to try it. Maybe this is going to make me feel like I got my mobility back. Because at this point, I was in a bed like all the time, right? And so I come into Altspace, and if you've ever been to my event Go Time, you've heard me tell this story where I come out of the load screen for the first time, and the first thing I did was I looked up and I saw the sky, and I was so grateful. I started volunteering for Altspace. And you know what? That's all true, every word of it. And so I started like hosting events, and you know what? Back then, Go users weren't too popular in Altspace, so they had people very resistant to me trying to do what I was doing. But tonight, I'm going to do my 400th event, right? And a couple of weeks ago, I started presenting my event standing up, because I started going over to the computer to build worlds, right? Because we got a computer out of this. And then we, building on that, I started playing Beat Saber and Echo Arena and getting more and more physical and building myself up. And I got to tell you, a bunch of times I thought I was going to die, right? But I kept on pushing and I kept on making it. Because listen, when you got to be somewhere, and I know we're just a bunch of avatars in here, but behind every one of us is a real person. And when you're up here doing this thing, anyone that's came up to speak today can tell you, you really actually feel the people looking at you. Right. It's a really wild experience. And all of a sudden I became very aware of the time. Like you got to, Tuesday at 7:00, you got to absolutely be there. Right. So I kept showing up and I found I really enjoyed it. The first few events I did, though, I feel bad for my audiences because I'm sitting there pointing at the screen going, over and over again, but every time they said I couldn't do it, I just kept on going and I kept on pushing. And now, 400 events. The next event tonight, we're going to be doing an event called Shark Time. It's going to be at 6:30 Eastern. And it's a game show with an interactive set that we built ourselves from scratch. You can win kits and prizes and stuff. And they said we couldn't do it. Now, we haven't been featured yet. They said we're not going to be able to do it. You know what? I think we can, because we are possible. We're going to keep on going. All right. Now, listen, if you guys like our content, what I'd like to ask you to do, if you go to altvr.com in the upper left, you're going to notice that there is a link that says channels. Now, when you click on this, you're going to see all these wonderful all-space event channels that are there. And down toward the bottom, the admins tell me that doesn't mean anything, right? But you're going to see Ravenhall events like it's on a display behind me. When you click on that, you get taken to our event page. And there in the upper right, you're going to see the most important button on the internet, and that's the subscribe button. If you guys subscribe, it lets us know that you enjoy our content, and lets Allspace know you enjoy our content. It's a great way to say thank you because we don't get paid to do this. And and also, if you're watching this out on YouTube, if you hit that subscribe button, that helps a lot. All right. So that being said, at the end of our events, what we typically do is we take everybody to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. All right, where we teach you guys how to fly. Now, if you've already flown in Allspace, you'll also have a chance to fly the Ravenhall Talon hovercraft, which is a vehicle that we brought into Allspace that we didn't think could be done, right? Because when we do end our events, we take everybody flying, and everybody would ask me, can we fly the ships? Because we have on the runway, we have kind of like an airport theme, right? And on the runway, there'd be all these drones set up, and people would ask, can we fly them? And every time I'm like, no, you can't do it. And people would always be disappointed. So I started saying, we're working on that. And now what we have is that we have this button here, and when we press it, what's going to happen is a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft that's going to come up over that wall. It's going to fly across the forum here and touch down on that landing pad there, right? And it's going to take us out to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. It's a cool effect, and I hope you enjoy it. Morgan, would you mind pressing the button for me? Give that a shot there. All right, here we go. Give this a press. Right here, it's top button right here.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position. Please stay clear of the landing pad. Thank you.
There it is. This is a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft. There we go. Having a little lag on it. A little late coming in. But you can actually fly these ships if you like. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top of the stairs here and meet it as it takes us out. It's going to get pretty low, but it hasn't hit anybody yet that we'll admit to. All right, here we go. Let's see. Here it comes.
Talon aircraft is now boarding for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please step into the blue light. Thank you.